Hi, good evening. How are we doing today?
Simply awesome.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm glad that we've been having a good, productive week then. That's great. That's great. What makes it so awesome? You want to share the joy?
Yeah, I think those have joy detergent for 235.
Yeah, it on sale.
It's on sale.
Okay, good, good. And I need some stuff from those right now. Okay, good. So good to know. It's good to know it on sale. Okay, so what about the rest of us? We there? Anybody else there, or just me and you tonight, Kendrick?
Denise just popped in. Good night, Denise. And Colbrook there too as well.
Okay, so we can give everybody about 5 minutes, then we'll start, even though it's being recorded, or we just want to start.
Yeah.
We can give them time. We can give them time.
We can give them time. Okay, so y'all tell me about your projects then. Where because we have chapters 6 and 7 tonight, and then chapters 12 next week, and that is the end of the chapters. Then we will have presentations on the two. I think it's the 23rd and the following week, and then we'll be doing review for the final exam. So we're almost there. How many weeks is that? 4 more weeks?
Yep.
Yep. And we'll be done. So are we excited?
It depends. Always kind of nervous about exams.
You want to see this homework? Every time this homework, I be like, I really pulling out the best. I really doing y'all a disservice with this homework because you always get like 300% on the homework. I wonder, this homework ain't challenging y'all at all. And then I'm marking on my computer crashed, so I'm using my son's computer, and he could, they have that high tech stuff where you mark online, but you couldn't see. I sent the attachment, and when I look back at it, it was marked, and then I screenshot. Did you see the screenshot?
Yeah, I saw the screenshot. Yeah, I saw it.
But the first one you're saying came out blind, because you're not the only person who said that.
No, that's the one I actually said, the actual homework that was turned in. That's the one I got back. Now, the other one that you followed up with is the one that is actually have the marking in it. Yeah.
No, I only screenshot what I sent you.
Wow. Yeah, well, yeah. I got that one. That's super cool.
Yeah, perhaps that computer is let me see, some Apple device, and perhaps I think did you read it like on your phone or?
Yeah, I read it on my phone when I checked my email on the phone, and I said, I just glanced at it. Honestly, I haven't really even looked at it since I got home.
Yeah, you may need to give it a minute to download, because I only screenshot, because when I opened it to see if I had sent the wrong thing, the marking one that was marked was there. Anybody else had a problem with it? Tanishka, you saw your grade?
Yes, ma'am, I saw it.
Okay, so that homework is these homeworks are too easy. Is everybody getting 100% or 90 something, or would you all agree that the homework is too easy?
What I think is that I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm going to speak for myself. I find that the greatest challenge for me is the items where there's a lot of research that is required. I find that it's like, let me compare it like this. It's like having a relationship. Once you spend time with something, I tend to get the most out of it. The hit and miss, what is basically multiple choice, it doesn't work for me. But the ones where you spend time. Ms. Bullard is also one thing I want to ask you relative to chapter 7.
Okay.
Archaeos, I don't know if you've heard of that. Bill Wine. He used to be one of the what they used to call the Tiger Cubs under, I think it's Jim Robinson from Tiger Management.
What is Tiger Management?
It's an offshore, it's a hedge fund company.
Oh, okay.
There was like 7 understudies that Mr. Robinson had. And one of them was Bill Wine, but he spells it with a BWANG, Archaeos, I think is the name of it. It, well, he lost $20 billion in 2 days earlier this year, relative to.
Was it in something like with the Mark Cuban and the cryptocurrency?
No. What I think, because of why I'm asking is that I see there's something here in chapter 7 relative to leveraging of stocks, basically. I think, what do they call it? I was wondering if it was the same thing, because in chapter 7, they speak about investment, bank nominee company, because what Mr. Wang was doing, he would allow the bank to purchase the stock for him. The stock would be in the bank's name, but he would pay a fee, and whether that stock did well, he would get that, or if it had a loss, he would take the loss. But the bank was the front on owning the shares. And what had happened, he initially started with $200 million. And then you had banks like Credit Suisse, who's the other ones? Lumara, I think it is. It's Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank. They collectively lost billions of dollars because this was one of the examples, but I didn't answer that in the AML class relative to risk, because he invested all of that money into 3 stocks: CBS Viacom, and a shopping site in Japan, and another small site. He took a $200 million investment and flipped it into $10 billion in a matter of a few years. And I was wondering if this is the same thing relative to the bank nominee company, if it's the same thing as share leveraging.
Okay, not what I know of share leveraging, with the leverage in the Bahamas. One of the I guess one thing that the governor of the central bank did to ensure that we're not overall seen as high risk is that he decreased our leverage. And leverage is your borrowing power when you are trading. And so whatever you have on account, if you have $100,000 on the account, they let you borrow up to 200% of that $100,000. So essentially, when you go into the market, you go in with $300,000, right? And that's my understanding of leverage. Our leverage was one of the highest in many of the countries, and so it attracted a lot of broker dealers. And so recently, you see broker dealers popping up. We went from having, like, say, 10 online broker dealers to probably 50, because our leverage had increased. So that made us more competitive. And so even though it made it more competitive, it caused us to be seen as high risk. And so the governor of the central bank decreased the leverage. I think our leverage used to be up to about 400%. So he dropped it to, I think, 300, which is still higher than like Switzerland and other countries, which may be like 200%. So he just decreased it by like 100% or something to that. And so that's what I understand in terms of leverage, the borrowing power that you get based on what you have on account already, and you go in the market and you could double what you trade with. Okay. Now, what the book talks about nominee companies, and again, what I know about nominee companies is the same thing. Normally, when companies hold bearer shares, that bearer share is high risk as well. And so a few years ago, probably in about 2016, the Bahamas stopped issuing bearer shares, but we still do open accounts for customers that hold bearer shares, say St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Panama. So most recently, not most recently, but in 2018, Panama stopped issuing, just like we had stopped issuing. And so, of course, we had a portfolio of Panamanian accounts on our books that had bearer shares on it. And so we went on a revision process to call them and say, either you have to close out your account, we gave them 90 days to either close out their account or go and get their shares registered. Okay, and so what a nominee does is they hold shares on behalf of a person. And again, and it's just another layer to I guess to protect your identity. And so what the nominee is an account, it used to be banks, and the book only refers to banks, but of course we know because of competition now, it's lawyers and it's accountants and even real estate persons are now acting as nominees. And what they do is they just hold the shares in safekeeping on your behalf. And so each company has a shareholders registry. And so when you see that shareholders registry, instead of saying Kendrick Minnis, that registry will say 100% of the shares are owned by King and Co. or Higgs and Johnson. So it'll present a company. However, because of, and we're going to get into all this tonight, because of CRS and FACA calls for a natural person. And so when the laws changed in 2018, we had a lot of share registers that had company names, and we didn't know who owned those companies. We didn't know if it was Kendrick and Tanishka or Kendrick and Ben Laden. So that was the risk, surrounding that. And so again, we had to reach out to those companies and said, listen, identify who your ultimate beneficial owner is, or close out the account, or send us a copy of your nominee agreement. And that nominee agreement would say Higgs and Johnson is holding these shares on behalf of Kendrick and Tanishka. And that would then we'll be able to get KYC on Kendrick and Tanishka. But many banks even today still have a lot of accounts, and these accounts now, they call them recalcitrant accounts that need to be fixed, because we don't, this was a bank that was shutting down, by the way, that I was doing some part-time work for. They simply didn't know who the beneficial owners were. So it could have been PAPs, it could have been terrorists. It's just like the cryptocurrency. The cryptocurrency is just a number, so you don't actually know who you're doing business with. Okay? So that nominee and that's one of the conditions that the central bank says, we no longer issue bearer shares in the Bahamas. However, if you do open an account for a company that holds bearer shares out of St. Vincent and the Grenadine, because they still issue it, out of Uruguay, because they still issue it, you are to get that nominee agreement, and you call it a letter of undertaking, where the nominee or the company holding the shares promises to let the bank know if the shares are transferred, because that was another problem. Kendrick would come into the bank and open the account, and then 2 years later, when we want to do an update on Kendrick is saying, oh, I don't own those shares anymore, we sold them. And so we, in order to open up that account, we put it as high risk. We monitor it annually, and we get a letter of undertaking from the person holding the shares and the beneficial owner, 2 letters stating that we promise to let the bank know before these shares are transferred or sold, and we give the bank the opportunity to tell us whether they want to do business with the person or not. And we have had some people where we didn't have an appetite for PAPs, and they were transferring the shares to PAPs, so we simply said no. Or persons with criminal history, we said no, that's outside of our appetite, and so we're not going to do business with them, and so we closed up those accounts. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll touch on that some more in let me get to chapter 7. And again, all of these terminologies, persons, there's policy, and then there's internal policy. So there's the law, and then there are guidelines, and then there are internal policies. You will find that some persons still, it's the same thing, and they do it. So they call themselves normally because they're holding shares for somebody, or they say they are the intermediary, or they do leveraging within their company, and so they say, they use the same terminology because in essence they're carrying out the same task. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it'll get clear hopefully as we go through the lecture. Let's see. So, okay, so we have most persons here now, and I want each group to tell me where we are at with the projects. The projects are due on the 21st to my email, and by now you should be about 80% completed, and you should decide who is presenting. Now, persons have lost a lot of points for presentation. In the last class, somebody didn't have their glasses and they practically couldn't see the screen. And they lost a lot of points because she kept saying, I don't have my glasses. I can't see. And it was a very good presentation, but she wasn't able to deliver it because she didn't have her glasses. And the other two persons in the group had did their leg work, and her part was to present, and they did not step in. So they lost like 30 points simply because we didn't understand what she was saying, and they couldn't present. So please, if other persons in your group do the leg work and you are the one to present, please bring your glasses or whatever you need to ensure that you can present and you don't have any other problems. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. The only challenges that I have been encountering is that I've asked about 30, I'd say give or take about 30 individuals to participate. And the minute people doing a survey on banks, they think you want their information. No matter what you give to them, they think you want their information. I have basically gotten either ignored or turned down from at least 22 persons.
In terms of surveys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
In terms of survey, but I do have about
9 people in this class. 9 people have an account. Ask them there. I sent a survey for you, Kendrick.
Yeah, I know you one of about just raw bank persons. One of about.
Ask these other 9. These 9 kind persons in this class. They have to fill out those surveys for you. Yeah. Okay, but that's the only issue you have.
Somebody did send me one relative to insurance company, and I think I did fill it out and send it back to them. Yeah.
Okay, so let us all chime in and try to help each other. Okay, but you're good for the 21st, and you already found out who's going to present. You all already decided.
I think I have been nominated by Renita, who's doing the presentation for the group.
You need to ask us, Ms. Bullard.
I need to, because I just had a whole a group lose 30%. And they telling me I unfair, and I telling them, okay, I can send it to the education committee.
What? Oh,
because nobody stepped in. The lady said, I do not have my glasses. I cannot see the screen. And the other 2 persons sat there and they said nothing. And I said, is anybody gonna help? The next group has to come on. What have you all decided? What are y'all gonna do? I can't, let me know what y'all need.
Okay, and they Kendrick is presenting.
See, I got volunteer just now.
Kendrick is presenting, and in the event that anything happens, Denise and I will be there to back him up.
Okay, but y'all are helping him with the research and him presenting, preparing the whole slide and research doing.
I actually have some stuff to get to him this week. I had a week from hell to work last week, but I'm off, so I have some time. I need to get some stuff to him.
Okay, so y'all make sure y'all don't overwhelm Kendrick. Everybody. Sorry?
Denise would have sent something as well.
Okay, so y'all please make sure he's not overwhelmed. Okay, nobody in the group should be overwhelmed. Okay, good. And who else? Omara, tell me about your group. Omara there?
Yes, Mom.
Okay, what's happening in your group?
We're getting it. We're almost finished. We're working on it together, but we still have to decide who's presenting. So that's one of the challenges we're facing now.
Yeah, but make sure it's somebody who, in because y'all lose a lot of points.
No,
Okay.
mom. Yes, mom.
Okay. Good. All right. Jade,
Yes, ma'am.
what's happening? Because I haven't seen Shanice here.
No, and I emailed her, but she never answered. So it's only me and Patronique doing the presentation.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I don't know if she's listening to the recordings, but yeah, I haven't seen or heard from her since. You want to send an email and ask her if she's still, because she may just be listening to the recordings, which is fine as well. But
Okay.
email her and copy me, and if she doesn't respond, then yeah, it'll be you and Patronique.
Okay.
But you all have sufficient information.
Yes, ma'am. We only have to go back to one of the institutions Friday to pick up the rest of the surveys.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
Good.
ma'am.
Okay, Daniel.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so we're coming along. The only thing only challenge we had was in regards to like newspaper clippings and stuff like that. We found that we were able to find more stuff online.
Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. Just a lot of people just switch the way they do business.
Yeah, so we found more ads and stuff online than actually via the newspaper.
Okay, and that's because those newspaper ads cost like $1,000 each. So,
Yeah.
and online is free. So yeah.
So that
Okay.
was the only thing that we had. Now, when it comes to who will be speaking, when Vaughn comes on, I guess we could verify who would actually be doing the presentation.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I just making sure that you ain't having no challenge with getting the information and what have you. Okay. So in terms of the 5%, y'all don't need this 5%, and we just moving on. Because let me see who I have. Kendrick.
Miss Bullard.
Yes.
Hi, this is Monique.
Hey, Denise.
So I attended a Rotaract meeting yesterday, right? And I know we're supposed to come back and talk about it, but the thing is, the meeting that I attended was the Rotaract of East Nassau. They had a meeting yesterday, and they had a speaker aligned to speak on the foundation of Rotaract, but the speaker only spoke about peace and unity. So the person that invited me, she was like, that ain't really what they were supposed to speak on. So I'm like, do I have to attend another meeting?
No, that's fine.
Although I already.
It doesn't have to be business related. Somebody else went to one that was on backyard farming, and so we want to make persons well-rounded. So tell us about peace and unity in this criminal world today. Some tips. Yeah.
You mean based on what she said?
Yeah, tell us what she said.
Okay, so her focus was mainly, speaking about us being at peace with ourselves first in order to be at peace with others. And she even referenced the unfortunate situation that took place over the weekend with the baby. She kind of tied it in to say that once we are at peace with ourselves, we'd be more open to being our neighbor's keeper, being more alert, and that's where she tied in unity as well. When they said a village raises a child, and she also went into speaking about there being unity in the workplace. Everybody just have the mindset of coming to work to get paid, but once we hold up a united front, we'll be able to work more effectively and efficiently. And then she kind of went into, I guess, kind of like a question and answer period, asking people why they find it hard to be united with other persons. And some of the feedback we got was some people really discriminate against each other and don't even recognize it. Some people feel as if they're in a higher class as it relates to their financial status. So that's where the separation comes in. And it was amazing because I know peace and unity is common and it's spoken about a lot, but I don't think I ever thought about us not being at peace because there is no unity. I never thought about it that way, but that was a bottom line. That's saying that we don't have peace because there's no unity in either the work environment or our communities.
Okay, so that's very inspiring and a new way to look at things, and I am happy that you found it beneficial, and this is how you learn, Bernice. You know, you put yourself out there, you expose yourself to new people and new things, and there's a wealth of knowledge out there. Again, you know, knowledge is power, and like I said, the more exposure you get, the more you learn. So I really hope that you will return. And did you introduce yourself?
I did to the ones that were attending virtually because they had it in person and virtual.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. But will you will you go again?
I would, mainly because the person that invited me to the last one, she really wanted me to attend their next one. They have it every 2 weeks. So she encouraged me to come back. So I'll do it again. I'll join again.
Yeah, that's it's something positive to do. I mean, if you some of us are bored and we have a lot of time and we can't find productive things to do, or some of us are very busy. But like I said, I find that when you attend these meetings, you always learn something new. You always meet new people. Okay, and I feel like that helps you, you know, in your upward trend in this corporate world. You have to know the right persons. You need to know the movers and shakers. And like I say, when your resume comes across their desk and you're already qualified, they say, "Oh, I know Bernice. Oh, I met her at a meeting. Oh, you know, I know Kendrick." And so all of that helps, you know.
Yeah.
So to spend some time, make at least 2 hours per month for your corporate development and you know, trying something new and exposing yourself. Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
very good, Bernice. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so we have Kendrick and Bernice. Who else has their 5%?
Me?
Omara?
Yes.
That's you. Who say me? Who's me?
Omara.
Okay. Kendrick, Bernice, and Omara. That's it? Okay.
Excuse
Well,
me, what 5% are we talking about?
Dorset. Somebody tell Dorset with 5% we talking about, please.
For participation.
No.
In the class?
Organization,
So
like
you get
Rotary,
you get
Kiwanis.
you get 5% for participating in the class, and then you get another 5% for somebody was saying it. Go ahead.
Civic organizations, Rotary, Kiwanis, Pilot
Oh.
Club,
Toastmasters.
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 Oh, okay. I could speak about my participation. Like we have to have it documented or something.
No, I mean you just participate in the class. So for you've been from the day you joined, Dorset, I know you already is. Some people are in this class I don't know, and I teach them in 3 other classes, and I still don't know them yet. So you find with that participation point, but in terms of the bonus 5%, you have to go out to Toastmasters, Rotary, or Kiwanis.
That's what I can need that because I got that.
Yeah.
I sold raffle tickets for the Rotary Club. You feel that?
Okay.
I sold
Okay.
raffle tickets. I didn't just sell $1. I sell $5.
Did you attend their meeting? Can you share something productive like Bernice just did? And tell us about the meeting?
I mean, the tickets was really productive because they was doing this raffle.
Dorset.
Rebuilding.
Whoever you sell the ticket for, ask them when their weekly meeting is and attend, and you come back and share with the class. You have 2 weeks left to do it.
Try to get swing. Okay.
Okay, but but you haven't been to this class, so why you just notice? Why you didn't notice before?
I having a I having a hard time over here, just trying to keep up. You know, it's a
Okay,
lot. It's a lot.
okay. But
Pardon
I
me.
pray, I pray it gets easier for you. I hope each day it gets easier. But I just marked some exams for another class. And I was all about, I was looking for every point to give those persons so they don't have to retake this class or pay $150 for a retake of the exam. Please, please get every single point, sit comfortably in the final so you don't have to be like the rest of these people, because my phone was ringing all day after I sent in those grades. Persons were saying, oh, Miss Bullet couldn't give me 2 more points. Miss Bullet couldn't give, no, I can't give any more. I give 10 free points most of the time, 5 free points. So, and persons don't take advantage of it. Some people didn't participate at all. They only listened to the recordings. And so they got no participation points and they complained about that. They didn't attend any civic organization. They complained about that. And then they didn't do their homework. And they complained about that too. It's nothing I could do. And so you have sufficient weeks, 14 weeks, to attend one meeting, to do your homework, to participate. Okay, I can't do nothing after that. I send a grade today and I just have to block my email today when I send grades. Okay, so y'all don't get caught up. Y'all don't get caught up like that class. Okay, okay, so 3 of you, Bernice, Kendrick, and Omara, can sit comfortably into the final so far. So very good, you 3. Okay,
So what about the class participation?
for the most part, everybody have points, especially the new persons that joined. I know the new person, so everybody have their 5% already for class participation. They just don't have the other 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so y'all work on it. Y'all could
Yeah,
still
I'm working on it. I just missed the meeting last week because of work. And then for some reason, they seem like they're meeting every 2 weeks, so I have to wait another week.
Okay, that's fine. You still have some time left. Okay, so I have something up on the screen. Can you see the screen?
No, ma'am.
Yes,
No?
ma'am. Credit Bureau.
The Credit Bureau project.
Okay, Omar, check your screen. Something may be wrong on your end. Okay.
I can see it now.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is I found this online. The Bahamas Credit Bureau, where Chapter 6 talks about credit. By now, everybody should have read it, and it wasn't as difficult as the other chapters. It was short and sweet. So I expect by now we have, like I said, 3 chapters left, 1 chapter after the night. So by now, you all should be able to tell me what Chapter 6 says. And we go from there, but if not, we'll go through it. So Chapter 6 talks about credit, and I wanted to share this credit bureau information with you because it's going to really affect all of us. Have we heard about the credit bureau so far? Do we have any information about it at all? Or do we know how it's going to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Okay, tell me. Who say yes, ma'am?
That would have been me.
And me.
And somebody else
Renita?
as well, but I'll let that person go.
That's Renita. So you go ahead, Renita. Tell us, and then Kendra could give us some information.
The Credit Bureau is basically like the credit score in the US. Most people may be familiar with that. And so basically all of your credit history would be available online, and all credit facilities, persons who are seeking credit, that information will be available to all participants. So they don't even, for checking, and then you're graded based on your credit history. It's supposed to be starting soon, and I think they're going to be going from 2018 forward. And I think that's very unfair, especially with 2020 and 2021 with the COVID climate. We had to work in. I mean, because to be quite honest, like I could see them saying from now, present, moving forward, but 2018, that's going to make it difficult. for persons to be able to establish credit or or get further credit. It's gonna be very interesting because now it's not a matter of you saying, "Oh, I don't have any loans with any other bank," and they say, "Okay," um, all of that information will be in the database that can just be pulled up, and they be like, "Okay, she owes First Caribbean $2,000. She has 1,100 for Royal Bank and 6,000 for Scotia." So it's gonna be very, very interesting.
Yeah, what I think is that the infancy stages on this whole credit bureau was established back in, I think it's 1992. And I think those of you who did the macroeconomics with Mr. Demerit, I was fortunate enough when he did a presentation to UB that he presented all of this information. It looks a lot familiar, looks similar to this. There was no other time, and I think that this was one of the things that the IDB and the IMF would have requested the Bahamas government to put in place to try to stem the delinquency in regards to people borrowing, because there was really not an efficient way of verifying whether a person had an additional loan with Scotia, First Caribbean, and then they come to us at the credit union looking for another loan, but we couldn't verify fully whether or not that loan, they had those loans. They had to put it in place. I think that was a requirement, again, of IDB and probably IMF. And this is where we're at. I'm looking at it, me and Omar, we look at it from this way in regards from collectors. This is something that was necessary. It may not be pleasant at this time, but it's something definitely is necessary in the Bahamas. Now, in regards to who are all the stakeholders besides the financial institutions, the credit unions, the scary part is, how does this affect persons in regards to school fees? Will the schools be releasing information to the credit bureau? It's just a vast thing. It's going to shake up the Bahamas. It is going to shake us to our very financial core as citizenry.
That's a good question, because I wonder if they're gonna come out with everything or they're gonna roll it out in stages, because when we did research on it in the credit collections class, they could actually do use the way you pay utilities as well.
Yeah, if BPL, more than likely BPL, BTC, and I think government has a stake in Cable Bahamas as well. Any entity that wishes that extends credit to anybody. That's why I say, even in regards to, let's say, the doctor. If a doctor wants to verify, if a hospital wants to verify your credit worthiness, they could request a credit score. From my understanding from the presentation, I think they may be offering you one free credit report a year. But in addition to that, I think you would have to pay for it. That's why when I first sat down, I think it was 2018 or 2019, and listened to it, I said that this is going to rock us as a country because we are not prepared for it. And looking at it from the delinquency aspect, anybody that offers you credit in any way, shape, or form could ask for a credit report and then determine whether or not they want to take you on. A landlord could probably say, well, I need to see a credit report to see who all you owe and what your salary is and what you could actually pay this rent. So it's going to affect us. I think it's going to affect us in that type of way. It's going to shake us, but it's going to force us to make some changes.
Okay, so let's talk about what happened back. I think in 1990 something, I used to work at Commonwealth Bank Loans Department, and I remember when the central bank implemented the debt service ratio, where you were not able to borrow more than 45% of your salary. Now, at that time, we applauded that because we had persons coming to us saying, I cannot feed my children. I take home $2 in at the end of the month. And I have 5 years left on this payment. So I can't eat, I have to do a side job in order to sustain myself. So what happened to the debt service ratio? And if that didn't work, why is this going to work? Anybody familiar with the debt service
I
ratio?
think with the TDS, with that, you still could work around that because I honestly feel like financial institutions to a great extent weren't doing the proper um checks on loans. They basically took persons for, what they say, okay, I don't have any other loans, then that's fine. They simply make you sign the thing that says, basically to say that this information is correct. And then that's it. Because in the banking industry now, everything has changed from service to sales. A lot of things are overlooked because when you have to make a target of 1 million and some a year, you ain't really paying attention to the minor details. You just want to make sure that you book your loan because you're trying to meet your goal. And so a lot of times those things weren't being, they weren't being checked. And then persons too, I could go to my cousin who has a business, just say for land, oh yeah, she lives with me. Or yeah, she works for me and I pay X, Y, and Z. A lot of times persons, they compromise their integrity for people, whether it be for family, friends, or for a fee.
Right, but
With the
what's going to
credit,
be different now, Renita? What's going to be different?
because
Because
everything is supposed to be in the system, it's supposed to be automated, and so it's just a matter of putting up the name. So they'll put up Renita Claire, NIB number 1118872, and boom, everything should be tied to that. And so it's not going to happen like instantly. There's probably still going to be some, you know, bridges that need to cross, some, issues, but for the most part, everything is going to be in and everybody's going to be privy to that. So I can go and put up Denise Thompson, put in her date of birth, and boom, everything will be linked to her. So I don't really have to go anywhere. Everything that is in there should be true and most likely will be. Um, and so that eliminates a lot of that.
okay, so I feel that's how they were able to defraud the system with the debt service ratio because Commonwealth Bank, most of their target market is government employees. You have to bring in that pay slip. Now I know there were one or two persons at the ministry issuing, like the Ministry of Education, they actually caught those persons issuing pay slips and job letters. You paid $500. You got a pay slip and a job letter that says you didn't have any loans anywhere when you had 10 loans, right? So those persons got caught. So I imagine at other government agencies, or like you say, you have a cousin or a sister who has a business who will give you a job letter. So they found a workaround of the 45%. I don't see how this is going to work. I also read another article that says for a credit bureau to break even, to be able to pay its staff, keep the lights on and whatever other expenses they have, they need a minimum of 250,000 hits annually. The Bahamas has 400,000 persons. They're saying that 200,000 is children. Is that what you all know about the census?
The labor force is required. Somebody help me out. Denise, help me out here. Labor force is about 130,000, right?
Okay,
Tell
so
labor force currently.
how is this going to be effective if the credit bureau itself needs 250,000 hits? How do you get 250,000 hits from 130,000 persons? Especially when the first hit is going to tell you that 40% of those persons cannot get a loan, because that's what's going to happen.
Make-
All
Make
this
it
is
mandatory
doing.
twice a year.
Remember now, the credit bureau have to make money, and what happened was we went through this. There's Expedient and TransUnion in the States. We went through this Italian company with called Crest.
Yeah.
Right, and so they have that. They are all over the world, and they list the countries in this slideshow who they do for all these are the countries around the world that they service. But again, countries like Jamaica have 1 million people, in the US have 13 million and stuff like that. The Bahamas has 400,000 and only 130,000 is the workforce. So only those 130,000 should be getting loans, right? And if 40% Atlantis was shut down, everybody at Atlantis and Bahama, I don't think they catch themselves yet. I think the bank's still giving waivers. You know, who will they be lending this money to? And again, Renita touched on a very important thing that I always bring up. We were auditing one of the Fortune 500 banks in the Bahamas, one of the Canadian banks, and they invited us to their annual general meeting that they have at the hotel, and they have a nice big party with a band and nice food and drinks. And we sat there, and their salesperson of the year was out of Freeport. When they called that person's name, the audience gasped for air, like it was unbelievable. And persons in Nassau literally walked over to us and said, that's impossible. That somebody out of Freeport with the economic conditions there was able to be the salesperson of the year and beat us. Okay. And we couldn't get in that office on Monday. We had 50 emails requesting that an audit be done on the salesperson of the year. And over the years, I work with Royal Bank. Royal Bank just give a cruise to the salesperson of the year. And I can tell you, 50% of those persons who won that cruise for sales was fired the year after. Okay? Because the next company, they was manipulating the system. These targets are ridiculous. They are not, you're required to have SMART goals, which must be measurable and attainable. And these targets are not measurable or attainable. And that same year when that company had put that Freeport person as the salespersons of the year, 134 persons were let go because they didn't meet their targets at another institution. Okay. And so every salesperson was on edge, and this might have been 217-ish. Every salesperson was on edge about trying to keep their job because these people had lost their jobs and everybody was desperate. Okay. But did anybody speak up and said, listen, these targets aren't achievable. We can't do this in this economy, especially in Freeport. We can't even do it because the guidelines are so stringent and so strict. This is not achievable. And so out of our audit, that company not only got a note for not doing a proper background check on Freeport, but they got a note for setting goals that were not achievable, which would cause persons to compromise themselves. So the company was held responsible that year, and we threatened to even report them to the central bank because of these unrealistic goals and targets that had to be met, or persons would have been in fair their jobs. Okay. And what was found out in Freeport was that if you came in for a credit card, they would offer you a line of credit. They would offer you a loan. I mean, even somebody got a mortgage, and before the first payment came out, before the first person, they had a law firm involved also. And every product that they sell you, they had insurance attached to it. So all of that added to sales. And so these persons, you only came in, Kendrick, to increase your credit card limit. When we look at the system, you have 4 different credit cards. Anything that you could have qualified for, they gave to you. And before the first payment came out, they canceled it in the system. But it was already recorded. Sorry?
That sounds like
Yeah,
Wells
that's Wells Fargo.
That's
That's Wells Fargo.
Hello. That is Nassau, Bahamas. Okay.
That's Wells Fargo, Nassau.
And half of you in the class were there. Or that's all I gotta say. Let's keep going. So thank you. Y'all ain't hear me say Freeport. Y'all let me
when you said that, I was like, very familiar, but anyway.
Yeah. We minding our business. But anyway, so that's what happened. And so before the first payment came out, they closed out the accounts. And so I guess the person who was recording sales points only, after the first 10 days, they say, oh yeah, Miss Bullet, open up all these accounts. Yeah, she and I then checked to see that all these were fictitious, and they closed out, and you never even got a payment, even with the person with the mortgage. Okay, so be very careful. If you see that the goals are not smart and they could cost you teeth, please don't compromise yourself. Okay, find another job or advocate and say, listen, we need somebody to review this, especially like during the pandemic. Of course, you would have set goals in January. If by March, or no, what should I say, by July, when the whole country was shut down, if nobody was saying, okay, we are going to reduce these targets and these targets don't make any sense any longer, then you are not with the right institution. Okay, or you need to put in somebody to do a balance or audit or check to talk some sense to these people, because they will make you teeth. Okay, don't compromise yourself. Okay, but all of that to say, I think this is, I mean, I guess it'll take some time for it to become effective, because they, like you mentioned, in this slide here, they tell you who is mandatory to use it. So you have no choice if you're a bank, insurance company, financial corporate service provider, credit union, Bahamas Mortgage, Bahamas Development Bank, or any other person the Bahamas Central Bank may designate, if considered in the best of public interest. And then by invitation, BTC can use it, Cable Bahamas, Water and Sewage, the Supreme Court, National Insurance, any person carrying on business or selling pursuant to hire purchase agreement, credit sales agreement, or conditional sales agreement. Okay, and so Kendrick mentioned like your landlord can find out, get a credit report on you if they want to rent you an apartment. And then if you don't qualify, which like I say, about 50% of the persons now will not qualify, because if you go from regulated to unregulated, just like with FACA and CRS, they need to have like a grace period to say, get 2 years to get yourself in order, because they won't be able to give anybody loans. Okay. And
it even gets worse when in regards to, you go to magistrate court and you were taken before the courts by an institution and there's a judgment in the system. That judgment doesn't go anywhere. And to my understanding, I think that's where, from what I heard, Griff is struggling with the name aspects, because you have persons who have similar names. And I think that's a big impediment to them right now, I think, as well. But the judgment thing, if that's on you, that isn't going to be moved. I think the time period is 5 years, and then the debt can be moved from the credit report. But in regards to a judgment, that will not be moved.
Right, and then what about landlord? Suppose the landlord just upset, or you didn't pay this particular landlord, just you had some crisis or whatever. If they, landlords could give information on you. I mean, how do you ensure that it's correct and true, and it won't put a dent in your credit? So, like I said, it works in the United States and it works in other countries. But like I said, I don't know where the Bahamas is at for this to work.
Ms. Bullard, there's an appeals process as well. There's an appeals process. Also, there is an avenue for persons, I think, if I remember correctly, that if you dispute something that's on there, you can actually challenge it to have it removed. And for the other financial institutions, I would think that would even make you more liable if you have something placed on the person's report that isn't factual. I think they can have grounds to sue you as well if you're an institution.
Okay, but
Question.
Go ahead.
How I remember it was a case some time ago with, was it a jewelry store in Nassau, where some type of fraud was being done by the staff and they was taking card information, if not 2020, 2019. How does the government treat fraud? Like what is fraud in the Bahamas? Fraud is real?
What do you mean? What is the Bahamas? You don't.
Yeah, man, my friend.
Right before the courts?
No, I mean like because a lot of stuff what you're saying is fraud and misrepresentation. That's something that's a real charge over here now.
Of fraud, it was always a charge over here. However, the fine, depending on what you do, was only like 3 or 4 years. Fraud is now a predicate crime under money laundering. So you don't only get charged with fraud now, you get charged with fraud and money laundering. Yeah. So you should have some 10 to 15 years when persons, are charged with fraud now. Okay, you should see more coming out.
Is that going to also affect your credit score?
Credit score, you be in
Which
jail.
fraud?
I mean the bureau thing.
What?
You be in jail.
You could be in jail. What you talking about? If you don't have nothing, you don't have no rights. You talk about a credit score.
I mean, because fraud, technically fraud, also fraud, misrepresentation, all of that fall under forging your job letter, letting the person in your payroll department write you up a fake.
Dorset. Too much people have to go to jail. The jail and crowded. They can let
That's
that
what I'm
pass by.
saying.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah. No, I think they
all of that is an aspect of fraud, misrepresentation. Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah, but they
you can't put everybody in jail who commit fraud.
Yeah,
so
they gotta
is that
turn
going
a
to be
blind
something
eye.
with a part of the judgment thing that you talk about that
Yeah,
shows up
but
on
Dorset, you can't call it fraud. They can find a nice word to call that. Right there, you can't call it fraud.
or intentional misrepresentation.
There you go, something like that. So they can come on the news and say, so the people who intentionally or may have, misrepresented their information, it's too many persons. So we're just gonna start afresh and start from today. They say they're going back to 218 or so, something to that effect. Yeah, but a lot of people, some people could be brought to light. The poor people could be brought to light, and then the rich people, of course, could go free as usual. Look at Picewell, who had a light bill for $7,600 the other day. If my light go over $250, my light off. It's almost $7,600.
You're lying.
Right?
Get that from the road.
Okay. $250. My bill was $253, and I see BC through my corner. Okay, so it's only poor people. Only poor people. Okay, so y'all please update your revenue streams. Because what would happen to remember Leslie Miller ran in and paid $30,000. The PLP empowerment. You all ain't have nothing to worry about. Remember, Leslie Miller went into BC by the post office and paid $30,000 on his bill. And his bill was $130,000. He didn't get charged with money laundering. He didn't have to declare the source of funds, nothing. Because he was the chairman of BC at the time.
I dare you say something.
That's the truth. I did. I was on the news according to the Tribune. You want me quote the date? That's what happened. So we should be fine. We should be fine right now with this bureau. They can wash some stuff away because it can affect them. Okay, and this is gonna affect the masses. So they have to do something to save the people when they really saving themselves. Jerome Fitzgerald has a $15 million home in Ocean Club Estates, never made a payment. It ain't repossessed.
What?
Leslie Miller has a $25 million loan. The Bank of the Bahamas, $9 million worth of assets, $25 million loan. His building may be falling apart, but nobody put him out nowhere. Right? So they got to deal with them first. Okay? Yeah, so y'all don't worry. But I mean, like I say, we have to, there's a Supreme Court list. It's called the cause list. That's a lot of banks use. But the other day, my good friend, she was saying, oh, Bullet, I invite you to my house, woman, and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, where's the gift selection? And she's like a John Bull. So I said, okay. She's like, she get that fine crystal. I said, okay. Her name's sitting up on the cause list. But she was getting a mortgage and she having a housewoman. I see the house almost up the belt. But her name is on the Supreme Court cause list. The judgment summons again. So that means she didn't pay her last mortgage payment. They repossessed her home.
That's the second
She get another one.
That's the second time, judgment summons.
Okay, y'all stop being poor, please. Okay, so again, chapter 6 talks about credit. Um, there are different types of credit. Okay, so we understand the credit bureau and what it represents. We know that it's going to affect all of us. Please pay your light bill on time. I mean, nobody have postpaid, so I don't know what BTC could be doing, because even if you have postpaid, when you can't pay, you just cancel it and do prepaid, right? And water and sewage, after you don't pay that bill, you just open up have a well, right? I don't know if people move to getting generators yet. With that hotel name next to Royal Bank on Carmichael Road, the generator run for like 3 years.
Motel, corner
No, but
motel.
that Corner Motel had a generator like for 3 years before our good MP passed away. Okay, so yeah, so there's always ways to work the system. But like I said, because I read that article where it says 250,000 hits need to come into the credit bureau annually, I was wondering, I guess that's why they had to go through
Jamaica.
Italy. No, Italy. They gone through Italy.
But and
Yeah.
they say that the information will not even be held locally. I think it will be held in Jamaica. Jamaica
Oh,
will be the hub where the information, because I know that there were several persons who had major concerns about that, about Bahamians' information being stored in Jamaica.
right. But most of the banks, most of the Canadian banks, one Canadian bank, everything goes to Jamaica already. So they don't have the majority of the information. So one or two other banks may have the same. Um, Back in the day, Bahamas used to be the hub, like for back office and stuff like that. Now it's Jamaica and Trinidad and Domin- Dominican Republic. Yeah, so it don't matter, or they don't have all the information anyway, right? So you just need to be the data controls and protection laws and stuff need to be in place for when the hackers come. That's just all you can do. Okay. So anybody work in the loans department? No? Okay. So most banks and credit unions and they even have just money services businesses and loan. I think what is it, Greenleaf? They just offer loans. And so most of the products include overdraft, personal loans, mortgages, credit cards. And do you all know that if you pay your credit card bill in full each month, then you do not pay any interest or any fees? Are we aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So what I used to do is just transfer my salary to it and then just use the balance. And so I can ensure that I don't incur those fees. But then I moved away. I only have one credit card now, and I use that because when you go further upstate, they require a credit card rather than a debit card. And I don't use that for anything else other than to rent a car, because a credit card is revolving debt. Your grandchildren will be trying to pay that back for you. So they are very easy to get, very hard to get out of. And they like to increase your limit. If you pay your payment, your limit will start off at $1,000 and it all the way up to 10,000, and you don't even know what happened. And so call those people back and said, no, I don't need that additional limit and keep it low, because like I said, if you don't pay that in full, which most people don't do, that revolves in past your grave. Okay, so don't get trapped into that. Miss Bully got trapped in Madison College in Atlanta. I had Macy's, JC Penney, every card, and had no graduation present, just had all kind of bills to pay. Okay, don't get caught up. And so we are familiar with overdrafts. We've heard the term mortgages, credit cards, and regular loans. The book says the advantages of overdrafts include ease of arranging, flexibility, no fixed program or repayment. There's a lot of risk as well. One company, there's supposed to be somebody checking the overdrafts every morning. There's a report that spits out and tells you who has an overdraft, and you have to ensure that it's within the terms of an agreement, because a lot of times persons don't stick to the agreement, and then you have to convert that overdraft to loans. But if you have a company and you paying salary, it's the easiest thing because the ones probably take, they say 48 hours, but that never happens. So a loan probably takes a week or so, whereas you could perhaps get an overdraft immediately or within 2 or 3 days. But you want to ensure that you stay within the confines of the payment, because sometimes the payments are very high, not the payments, but the fees at the end of the month. And so I found at one time, I got an overdraft to pay some salaries, and I had like $300 in fees because I did not pay in the, they said if it goes over the 30 days, then you're gonna incur charges. And boy, I sure did incur those charges. So you want to ensure that you stick to the date, or you could incur a lot of charges. And as an account manager, you want to ensure that the overdraft is, I guess, managed properly, because sometimes they say, okay, we're going to give you $3,000, you pay 1,500 by one date and 1,500 by another date, and you want to ensure that that is maintained, because there have been millions of dollars in write-offs surrounding overdrafts, or loans being, overdrafts being converted to loans simply because persons did not stick to the agreement. Okay. Another issue is when the book talks about disadvantages, again, I said to Lewis, retract of their repayments and repayment on demand by the banks. Something else I wanted to tell you all about. I had another story about overdrafts, but it come back to me. I can't remember right now about the overdraft story that I have. There used to be a time ago when there was credit. What was it? What was the name? It used check card. There was a check card that if you did not, a lot of persons were having bounce checks. The bank started just returning because persons weren't sticking within their overdraft limit. And so there were a lot of checks that were returned. This again was back in the day when it took 2 weeks for a check to clear. So again, we talked about kiting, and we know what kiting is. And so persons were kiting, and check card was the security along with that. And so if you wanted to write a check to Kelly's, Kelly's would take it if you had a check card, or the gas stations or any other businesses would accept your check if you had a check card. And again, because check card said, if they don't pay, we guarantee that it will be paid. Check card then had loads of fees and charges attached to the check card when you didn't stick within the agreement. And so again, a lot of people just simply did not pay, and check card is now out of business. I don't know if it's because of the automation. Is it, Kendrick? Do you know? Kendrick? Is Kendrick there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know
What
why
happened with
the
check card?
business, they used to be on Mackey Street,
Yeah,
up above Henriette's store.
right. Did they just shut down because of the automation now, the 3 days, and then a lot of persons just moved, persons that just say we do not take checks unless it's a business account, or unless you have an account established with them already.
I think it would probably be the latter part. I'm just assuming here because, like you said, with the kiting, because I remember they had the blue and white debit card type of thing that they used to use. I would think it's the latter part of persons not making their payments, and when the system went automated, it basically, I would think it would have freezed them out because it would be in a quicker turnaround in regards to verifying whether or not there was enough funds on the accounts. So that would have really not really put them in a good light anymore. There wouldn't have been a need for them to guarantee anything because you could get a quick turnaround quickly to find out whether or not people had the funds on their account or not.
Correct. Okay. And then we are all familiar with personal loans, and persons get loans for vacation. In fact, like I said, whilst I was at Commonwealth Bank, you would see that every year persons come in and they get this revolving that never ever ceases. I mean, it continues on for years and years and years. They come and they say they get a vacation loan, or they try and get waivers, and when you start to get waivers, particularly at Commonwealth Bank, yeah, like I said, your grandchildren will pay those loans. There are various initiatives where there's like on the spot financing for cars. Each March they have like a car show where you are supposed to get the lowest rate on a car loan, which is normally 9%. But I've been in the loans department for years. Is it still 9%? And the car show is still in March? Anybody know?
Yeah, I think most car shows are running somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 to 4.5, maybe 5% right now.
Okay,
Traditionally,
so
with the shows.
wow. Okay, so that
It's
should tell.
dropped off tremendously.
Yeah, it has dropped off. Well, I think it would have had to, because interest rates dropped off many years ago as well. And so the book talks about a benefit used to be the interest rate and what have you, when you open up an account, and you can actually make some money, but not on the commercial side. Even on the investment side, there is no interest. I know what each, we used to have placements back in the day where we used to invest money overnight, and the bank used to make like $400,000 or $500,000 depending on the amount they invested overnight in interest. And I haven't seen that happen for years. I'm sure they're still having placements, but I don't see the returns you saw it each year decreasing until some money just wasn't even invested. And a lot of accounts, especially if you're doing correspondent banking, you have to have a treasury department, because with the corresponding banking, if you send $100,000 worth of wires, in order to have that account open, they normally tell you need $1 million on that account at the end of the night. And so you need $1 million plus 100,000 to ensure that all your wires are covered. They're not going to return any of your wires. They're not going to say, oh, Scotiabank or Royal Bank doesn't have sufficient money on their account. They're going to pay that wire, and that wire could cost you up to $500 in fees because you went overdrawn. Okay, so each night the Treasury Department checking all of the accounts where they use to wire money, the Deutsche Bank, the Wells Fargo, the Chase Bank accounts, and ensuring that those accounts has enough funds on them to maintain the minimum balance, and for the wires to go through. Or like I said, in the next morning you meet a ridiculous amount of fees. Or we had 5 wires that went over your limit, and because your minimum balance is $1 million and you didn't have sufficient, and so we charged you $500 per wire. Okay, so the Treasury Department has to be careful of that in the night. I had a customer as well, and this customer was actually out of Haiti, and she had $18 million on her account, and quarterly, we would send her a check of like $400,000 in interest. And over the years, that went from 400,000 to 200,000 to 100,000 to like 50,000, and that should just tell you how the interest rates have dropped over the years. Okay. So yeah, back in the day, you could make a lot of money off of interest. These days, you have to go into like long-term investments or very high risk investments, and the more risk you take, the more money you make. But again, you can end up like the guy Kendrick was talking about at the beginning of the class, where he said, how much million did he lose? 20 million? Kendrick, you there? Y'all ain't talking about
20 billion would it be?
dollars. 20
in 2
billion.
days. In 2
20
days.
Okay. So what, is there anything different that we are offering now? Anybody working in offshore and now dealing with cryptocurrency, or no, do we have the regular mortgages and credit cards and savings and term deposits? How are you going to compete now, Branique, with Scotia and CIBC or Fidelity in terms of with no interest rates? Bernice, are you there?
Yes, you say, how are we going to compete with that?
Yeah, so you don't have a mass exodus because I mean, no, there are no interest rates anywhere, but Royal Bank has now been known for like that, one of the banks with the highest fees. So with those high fees, you're not having a mass exodus of persons closing out their term deposit and going right next to the Scotia or the Fidelity, or where they can at least get some interest.
To be completely honest with you, no. I have a report that I action daily for closed term deposit accounts and savings accounts. And no, we
No?
haven't.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So Tanisha, what about you when Fidelity went with the $500 is the minimum to open the account? What about the little man who only have 100 or 10? Everybody else is 10, eh? Or
Yeah,
everybody is 100 now?
what
Coach
I
is
What I see when well, I recently went there, so I don't know when they transitioned, but when I came there, that was the standard. But what I see what the trend is when persons come and inquire about the savings and I tell them the minimum deposit, they don't really be into that.
They walk right back out the door, right?
They walk right out, or some of them, I would start their forms, because we go by appointment, take their information, and they would never show up. But we have an A2 savings, what is the minimum requirement of 100. They tend to buy that product. However, with that, they're not strict savers, so they come and break it, and you know what I mean. So that's the catch with that for us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have any new type of offerings outside? I know Scotia offers a line of credit. I don't and they offer overdrafts. I don't know what the difference, would anybody know what the difference between the line of credit and the overdraft is? Anybody from Scotia?
You mean for our business accounts?
Oh, so the line of credit is only for business.
Yeah, we don't offer overdraft for line of credit for personal accounts.
Oh, okay. So that's just like a feature for a business account. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other outside of the usual? What about your wealth management division? Are they doing cryptocurrency? But I don't think the Canadians will take on crypto. Any digital assets? The sand dollar being implemented. Do you any of the banks accept sand dollar, or because what central bank is saying, the law provides where institution A verifies you, institution B doesn't have to. So in terms of KYC for your sand dollar wallet, I don't know if they're accepting a reference letter or something that go to the central bank to establish the wallet. Anybody did any work with it as yet? No.
So
The
Okay.
credit,
Go ahead.
we
Oh,
have
go ahead.
implemented. I just was going to say we have implemented a sand dollar at the credit union.
Okay, tell us about it. How does the process work?
I will allow you, can Mr. Mintz.
Yes. What you can do is that if you have an account with the institution, the sand dollar account is set up off a particular sub account that you can have exclusively just for your sand dollar account. You're signed up. If you have all of your relevant information already with your KYC, once that is done, you're given an email address, and at checkout, wherever you're sending funds or receiving funds, you have the option of whether you want them to see your account number or you want them to see the email number. So basically, you can use that anywhere where sand dollar is accepted, digital currency. It was really a quick and painless setup. I haven't used it as yet, but the process is relatively easy. Just for the homework, what I discovered is that central bank was having some information. The AFIs were giving them a hard time and actually taking it on because they believe that it would have contradicted their services and their sales relative to their debit cards and their credit cards as well. That's why I think the clearing banks are not too excited about taking on the sand dollar.
Okay, so that strategic placement through the money services businesses, that was just for our risk rating, or it was because the Canadian banks won't accept it? Like you said, because they feel like it's a conflict with their debit cards. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
That was a question?
But
Or
I think
you're not
one
sure?
of the persons from one of them Canadian companies need to speak.
But they ain't familiar. That's why we asking you. You suggested that the clearing banks did not take it on because they felt that there was a conflict. And I'm wondering if they're giving the governor some pushback. But I know he strategically placed it through the money services businesses. Like, I don't think they had a choice. And I think they welcomed it because, again, the banks do not open up accounts for them because they are too cash intensive. Right?
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't know. They're gonna have to probably give the bank the clearing bank some incentives to probably offshoot. You catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. I see why the banks and I see why the clearing banks have gone that route, because if persons are paying with sand dollar and not the debit card or credit card, I ain't making no money off that. So I think it's central bank is going to have to find some incentive to give to the clearing banks to push that.
Oh, okay.
I understand. I understand why they're doing it, like how they did with what is it called, the disaster relief plan, relative to with the IMF, and having a currency that's available in regards to any disasters that may take place. But they're gonna have to do a better selling. Central bank is gonna have to do a better selling job to the clearing banks for them to take it on. Because I completely concur with their way, because you're gonna be cutting into our profits if we offer this product.
Okay, and this is the merchant fee that they are going to be cutting into.
Yeah, because for every transaction on a debit card. Go ahead, Ms. Bullet.
No, say it. Say what you're saying.
If every purchase with a debit card is going to, like, for instance, we have a debit card to work that is backed by Fidelity, yes, Colebrook, and every transaction that we do, personally that I do, with any place, is a 30 cents charge. You're now asking that institution to forego that 30 cents charge for me who's the staff. That they usually
times a million
Yeah.
people who are going to do that same transaction. Yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to give something back if you want this to be used. You're definitely gonna have to give something back, because I can tell you the truth, I ain't gonna use it. I ain't gonna use it if I can be losing just to satisfy you.
But it's for the country. Remember, we don't want our overall risk rating to be high. So it's not only, it's loss of revenue, but then it's for the risk, for the risk rating of the country. And so that's why I thought the governor was going to make it mandatory.
To me, I think you want people to buy into this. And you can't come to the table and say, listen, you all eat this oatmeal without no cream and no sugar. It's just water. That ain't making no sense. You gotta put some bananas or some blueberries and some sweet milk or some cream, something in that to make that look good. They're gonna have to give them something. They're gonna have to give them something, some way of making it pleasing to them, because it ain't gonna make no sense. They'll still be with the credit unions and Canoe and all of these other relevant places. But it's not gonna be moved. The needle is not gonna be moved unless the clearing banks are involved.
Okay, I hear you. Okay, have you ever experienced? I was in Spanish Bells, and I bought gas, and they charged me $9 and something cents as a percentage. They said, but the bank is going to charge us it, so we pass it on to the customers. I said, ma'am, I just paid $5.68 a gallon plus VAT, and you charging me with the bank fees as well? How is that possible? Have you all experienced that?
You say where you say you been again?
At Spanish Wells in Eleuthero.
No. I never been there. No. I never been there. Not that much.
I was appalled. I could not believe it.
That's cool.
I really could not believe it.
Yeah, that's what they do. Crazy practices on the islands.
Yeah, and but even all around Nassau, I am constantly telling persons who say I have to buy $20 worth of stuff to use my debit card. I am saying that's against Visa and MasterCard's policy. I am going to report you all. And even the Consumer Bureau has put out a warning against all the Chinese is tell you must buy $20 worth of stuff.
Yeah, but that was a play. That ain't just come around though, Miss Bullet.
Yeah, but that's against the law, whether it just come around or not. It's against the law.
Miss Bullet, you have to understand. The pirates ain't gone nowhere. They just changed clothes. Us being ripped off, this isn't anything new. And the thing is that there's so many laws on the books. But when you got the stakeholders, the major stakeholders the people who's supposed to be on the wall watching, they're the very ones breaking the same laws.
Well, agreed. But why can't we get any, something done about that? What's happening?
We can, but we must understand that whenever you stand out and you start stepping on people's toes, I mean, I've discovered it. You get a bullseye on yourself. You get a tremendous bullseye on your back. Because
I see that.
There are a lot of things in this country, like we discussed, that are not right and that are contrary to our laws.
And it seems like they can't uphold the law. I mean,
they can't collect taxes.
Yeah, they can't collect taxes. They can't uphold the law, and the poor people always suffer. I don't get it. But okay, let's not go south. Okay, good. I like how I'm having this conversation with Kendrick all night. I guess and Renita. The rest of you, give me some feedback, please. Omara, and you. Okay, give me some feedback. You laughing, eh? Okay, you keep laughing. Let me go on and talk about FACA and CRS. So the book mentions taxes and some exemptions that you may have for taxes. But in 2000, I feel like I told you all this story already. In 2014, I told you all the story of Obama saying before he bows to the Chinese, he will fix his tax problem, and so he implemented FACA. FACA is Foreign Account Tax Compliant Act in the United States, and now we see that when persons come in, open an account at the bank outside of KYC, there's also a FACA and a CRS form to be filled out. We are familiar with that. Anybody not seeing a FACA or CRS clause somewhere on the account opening or a separate form?
Is the FACA necessary for U.S. citizen? I am aware of that.
Yeah. So on the retail side, if they open up a U.S. account, then you're asking them to fill this FACA account out.
Yeah, for reporting to the U.S. in order for them to obtain taxes.
Yeah, once they open up any account and they have a USD shop, they would fill out the FACA form.
Okay. So any account outside of $B or
including $B.
Including
$B. Including
$B.
Okay.
If they're a U.S. citizen, they still pay taxes in the state, so we'll have to need proof of the FACA.
Mm-hmm. So we would do both. So the CRS is like if they're from Canada or one of the other countries, that's something we have to ask them for. We have to ask them for their TIN number in that country.
Right. So CRS is for the rest of the world. FACA is for the United States. And CRS is Common Reporting Standard. And so that's countries like Tanishka said, Canada, Switzerland, Germany, France, all of those countries. And what happened was the Bahamas failed in our tax agreements with each of these countries, saying that if your citizens are here, we are going to send you their information each year. And this is a drastic and dramatic change for the Bahamas because, of course, we were known as a tax haven for many years, and many persons came to the Bahamas and opened up accounts to ensure that they could evade this tax because it was cheaper to pay $5,000 in fees rather than pay 30 or 40% of what you earn because it's on your income. And so taxes in America and Canada are between 15 and 35%. And so, very wealthy persons, they hate the government and they hate insurance and they hate paying the taxes to the governments because they say, the government is putting this money into their pockets rather into the schools and to healthcare and to the roads. And so they don't want to pay the tax. But in 2014, Obama said, I have to fix my tax problem. And he put in FACA. It was very successful. The IRS spent $18 million for training and to implement a system where they could receive this information. So if they spend $18 million, that they made in billions of dollars in tax revenue just off of the system. And after the rest of the world saw that it was very successful, then they came up with CRS. Then France said, I need to get my taxes. Then Spain said, I need to get mine. Then Panama and what have you. And so in the Bahamas, they, around the world, countries said, listen, we're going to offer you a repatriation period. Bring your money back home. We'll pretend that we never knew that you had it in the Bahamas or in Cayman or in Bermuda. Just bring it back home. And then we will start to charge you. In 2017, I think was when they first we reported. And so each year now, since 2017, we have been reporting to various countries that we have signed the TS yet. So each year, the competent authority for the Bahamas is the Compliance Commission. So each year, the Compliance Commission has a portal that opens and we upload this tax information to the country. We tell them how much income, how much dividends, how much interest the client would have made, and then that country would then charge them the various taxes. Now we still have persons trying to evade taxes because I was at an institution that was shutting down, and the IRS sent us a letter saying, listen, don't shut down and give this man all this money because we are sending him a fine. And he had $10 million with us because I'm probably working offshore. And they said, even if you have to put the account, if you close down, you would be liable under section something if you give him all the money. And the day before we shut down, which would have been December 31st, on December 30th, they sent us an instruction that his fine was $6 million. So we sent the IRS $6 million and we sent him $4 million. Okay, and so I don't know why he thought he still could pay taxes in 2021, or in 2020 after all these systems and these agreements were signed, and the Bahamas even got blacklisted. Could you mute your mic, please? Somebody.
I remember when we got blacklisted by France.
Yeah, because they felt that we weren't sending them the information. So there are two types of reporting. There's Model 1 countries and Model 2 countries. The Bahamas is a Model 1 country, which means that we send that information to the competent authority rather than directly to the competent authority of Israel, of Spain, of Switzerland, because that would be a more horrendous process if there's an issue. Like France would deal with the government if something is incorrectly reported, and then the government will liaise with the financial institution. Okay, and so like when we got that letter from the IRS, they sent it to the Attorney General office and they sent us a copy saying that we are not to send that money out because they're in the process of completing the sentencing and the fine for one of our clients. And he almost, I mean, he literally had a heart attack on the phone when the person said, well, the fine is 6 million, we can only send you 4. Okay? Okay, so we are familiar with CRS and FACA. We at least know of it, and we know that when clients come in, we sometimes have forms embedded into account opening. Sometimes we use the US forms, which is the W8, W9, and what have you, and all of these are tax forms. We as a bank, we do not give tax advice. Because they are company accounts, and sometimes it's very complex. And so we do not, and even with the IRS, they want you to go to a tax lawyer or a tax accountant and get advice on how their form should be filled out. Because even if the form is filled out incorrectly, they fine you. If the form expires and you're trading in the market, they send you a fine. Okay, so you want to be careful with that. If you work in the account opening department, in the top left-hand corner, it tells you that the form is a 217 form, and in most instances, the form expires. In some company structures, the form does not expire. And most recently, the new form has come out in 2021. So all the old forms should say 217, and the new form is October 2021. And so if you have a securities arm, or if that person is trading, or if that person is indeed US, you need to ensure that a new form is filled out, because the new form's out now if you work in the accounts department. Okay? You all know what I'm talking about? Or Miss Bullet talking already? Give me some feedback.
I know what you're talking about, Miss Bullet.
Because I don't work in customer service like that, front line.
Okay, so Dania.
I have to deal with it on an almost daily basis. That and FATCA and CRS.
Okay, and so you're aware of the expiry date of the US forms, the W8, the W9, and the WBNE?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, and you know that the new form just came out this month, October 2021.
Well, I didn't know a new form came out. I probably have to check into that.
Yeah, check in and make sure.
We have a platform where we get all of our forms from that we kind of check almost daily. So if it's renewed, I'll be able to pull it up on the platform tomorrow.
Right, then you have to call the customer and ask them to complete the new form. Okay, because it's against the law to have an expired form, and the forms are only good for 3 years. Okay?
Okay.
But y'all ain't even in the market, but it's still, y'all still have to, follow proper KYC. Okay? Okay. Okay, very good. Any questions on chapter 6? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So the newest thing in banking, that's in FACA, and of course for many years we didn't have any taxes, and the only tax that we really familiar with is customs tax and VAT, but there are a lot of other taxes out there. And so again, do not give any tax advice. You try and answer basic questions, but then you refer to senior management, who should then say, we want to you need to go and get tax advice from a lawyer, especially if it's a company, because there are many different categories on the WBNE form that companies have to select for their tax structure. Okay, so in chapter 7, Tanisha, mute your mic, please. Sure. Tanisha, we know you hungry. I got Ellen in a minute.
Sorry. All right.
Politno, Miss Politno, what time it is? I got over 8 minutes. Okay. Give me a minute.
Okay.
All right, so the bank, this is what me and Kendrick started off with. Then the bank can act as an administrator, and again, administrator, custodian, trustee, agent. It just depends on what the customer needs. So the bank wears many hats on behalf of the client, and primarily the majority of my career was spent at Royal Bank, trust and private banking. And private banking, we establish accounts, deposit accounts, termed accounts, current accounts for our clients. And in some instances, if they wanted a trust account, we would refer our private banking clients when they wanted to do wills and inheritances and what have you. We would try, we would refer them. We would refer the business to the trust department. And what the trust department does is a trust is a legal entity. They act as trustee on behalf of the client. And so what this is that the client transfers all their assets into an account that is managed by the bank. And so this is very well, this is why we closed down. There's something called a letter of wishes. And so Kendrick would write a letter of wishes to the Royal Bank of Canada and say, I wish that you accept information and requests from Kendrick on behalf of the trust in whatever name it is. And what happened with Royal Bank was that we had a trust account, and they sent us the letter of wishes. It was for an art gallery, and the art gallery had art from, they had galleries all around the world. They gave us these very big binders with copies of all of the art that was stored, and the value were into millions and billions of dollars. It was a very high end, $100 million within the trust. And so Royal Bank Trust administered that trust, and the letter of wishes said, take instructions on behalf of Kendrick. Kendrick one day called the bank and said, I need a storage facility in France to store the art. And of course, the trust now owns all the assets. So we go into France and we look around for storage halls and storage facility. And they said, we have 100 pieces of art we need to hold. And so we go and get one of these very large storage facilities, and it's registered not in Kendrick's name, but in the name of the Royal Bank of Canada. And so we arranged for the movers to move the art from one gallery to the storage facility just for holding until they are sold. Now we had a copy of these very big binders. Each of the binders had 100 pages, and we had like 8 of them. So we had like 800 pieces of art being held in various galleries, as well as in the storage facility. And apparently some very expensive art had been stolen. And when they did the moving, they moved it right into that storage facility in the name of the Royal Bank of Canada. And therefore the French government sent us a subpoena and a search warrant, and they asked that Royal Bank of pay us. They searched our facility. They searched our facility and found the stolen art that was missing for some 10 years or so, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The French government then sued Royal Bank Trust, and they also said that we collaborated with the owners of the trust, with Kendrick, and we allowed him to evade taxes. So the French government was charging us with tax evasion as well as the stolen art. Luckily, we were acquitted on the tax evasion charge, and the case is still going on for the stolen art. But 33 employees got let go, and the Royal Bank of Trust closed down, even though it was very profitable. And we closed down because we have 5 entities of Royal Bank in the Bahamas. We have commercial, well, Finco was the mortgage center. We have capital markets, trust, and private banking. The private banking is now closed because of FACA. Persons decided that if I'm going to pay taxes anyway, I might as well avoid paying these fees, and I need to repatriate my money. So they took their money back home to their country. But yeah, the French government is suing us, and the CEO and the account manager had to visit France to, give testimony on how we would have allowed this art to go into the storage facility unbeknown to us, unbeknown that it was a stolen art. And of course, it's just, that's why you have to ensure that you have a person who is familiar with that, or you outsource a person with that to check the portfolio of art that's being held. Just like we don't give tax advice, we don't give advice on art or anything outside of our knowledge. And so it was just, we had the pictures, we just did not know in these binders, we just did not know it was stolen art. And because of reputational risk, like I said, the trust company was very profitable, but we started getting eyewitness news standing out front. The French Le Monde, is the newspaper, they started calling us. And so to avoid reputational risk, because if we stayed open every day, Royal Bank Trust and this art was going to be in the paper. So we just closed out because of the media and the reputational risk. Okay, and so this is why it's very risky. You want to ensure that you have somebody in the trust department who is step qualified and who understands the business, and where there is no clarity, like you can't be an art expert working in the bank, but you could outsource and get somebody who is familiar with that to check the inventory to ensure that nothing is stolen, to avoid what happened to us. Just like with taxes, you are not the tax expert, but you do refer them to a tax lawyer, and you ask them to let the tax lawyer put it in writing what category they should be registered in for tax purposes, and the bank's responsibility to their competent authority. Okay, any questions?
No, ma'am, not this end.
Okay, but was it clear, or did I just go on and yours like Miss Bullet? You didn't even know what you said. Y'all know, y'all understand what I said?
It's clear.
It was
Okay.
clear.
Okay, good. Okay, and then Kendrick asked about bearer shares. Again, bearer shares again is very high risk, because you can just transfer to Bin Laden without the bank knowing, right? And so therefore, to avoid transferring to Bin Laden, there are 2 letters of undertaking that the bank requires you to get. One for the ultimate beneficial owner, one for the nominee holding the shares. And you get these letters and you hold it, because this nominee should be a lawyer, should be a bank, should be a responsible person who will tell you that these shares were transferred and give you the opportunity to world checks to see if this person is a PEP, or if you want to do business with them. Okay, so ensure that like I said, back in the day, we had many shareholders registry that came in companies' names, and we did not know who were the full beneficial owners of the companies. Okay, and so you must know, so you can world check that person and ensure that you want to do business with them. Okay, in terms of investment advice, even though we were private banking and trust, there was a capital markets division, and there was an advisory services called Dominion Securities. And a lot of times, customers would pick up the phone and say, Miss Bullard, should I invest in Google? The Google stock is looking good. Should I invest in this cryptocurrency fund? Should I do this or that? And we had to say, we don't give advice. We have a department that gives advice, which is Dominion Securities. And so we would refer them to Dominion Securities, because when Dominion Securities gave advice, it was paid advice, and they signed an agreement. Just like Kendrick said, $20 billion was lost. They signed agreements with the investment advisor in terms of, I'm going to make this investment. The investment advisor then fills out a risk tolerance level form, and then depending on your risk tolerance level, then they decide which investments you should go with. Because we've had persons lose all their money and commit suicide, or kill people. And there are a lot of horrendous stories. You know, when you are an investment manager and you lose person's money. With Bernie Madoff, his investment manager jumped out like a 10-story building after it came to light that Bernie Madoff was a Ponzi scheme. Everybody familiar with Bernie Madoff?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. His investment manager jumped out the window and just killed himself. Okay. And so you have to take risk tolerance levels. Where in 2018, and I think Kendrick, you made a bit. I told this story in my other class. You know, I used to travel to the Berry Islands a lot. One of my customers lived in the Berry Islands, so I would always stop by and give him a hail when I traveled. And he said, "Miss Bullet, you know, I know the market just crashed." This was 2008 when the market had just crashed. He said, "The market has just crashed. I had $500,000. I only have 100,000, but I will have a heart attack if I don't leave an inheritance for my children. And so therefore, please just sell all my shares, sell all my stock, and give me the $100,000. And I said, "Sir, you sure you're going to take a $400,000 loss?" He said, "Listen, I'm 80 years old." And then he quoted the Bible that said, you know, the wise man will leave an inheritance for his second generation. He said, this is enough for my second generation to get. But if I lose another penny, it'll be a la barata. So, you know, we closed it out. It was no longer within his risk tolerance level. So you can't just take it lightly and say, "Oh, I saw Google went out. I saw Facebook this or whatever. Oh, let's buy Apple." No, you are not to give investment advice unless agreements are signed, tolerance levels are known, and persons know what risk that they are taking on. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions? We
No.
understand a little bit about the bank services and what they offer in the offshore world and taxes and investments and how it works.
I have somewhat of an idea.
Okay, and just again, just an overview. So you understand, and then you have the terminology. You may not return it, but you can research it and you would know what you're looking for, and you would be like information seeking and awareness of the terminology. And you all know how Miss Bullet lost her job in 2016. Right? From her very beloved Royal Bank.
Oh boy.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so you have to be careful to shut down a profitable bank. We was announcing that we made $11 million in revenue that year, and we were shutting down because of one customer. It was our largest customer, but you know, we had to shut down. Okay, so don't take on these positions if you're not qualified or if you don't intend to qualify yourself. Okay, it's a lot of risk involved. Please read your policy and procedure. Please know who your regulator is. Please know what the risks are associated with the products and services that you offer. Please know what the regulatory requirements are. If you're regulated by the Securities Commission is slap the fines on the fines and the fines. You all dealing with that $7 Kendra? Know what is required. Know what that their bill say, because they fine you. I don't much for every Kendrick, you spell your name wrong. Fine. Okay. Now central bank is a way more lenient. It takes a lot for you to be fine, but you know your regulator, know the law, know the policies, and know like I say, risk associated with the client as well as the product and service that you offer. Okay, or offering. And when these new products and services sound dollar, there should be an assessment done by your compliance officer to say, these are the risks, and let me offer some training. And I want to ensure that persons understand the risks associated with digital currencies. This is the policy. This is what the guidelines say. Okay, you don't just take on a new product or service and you don't know what risks associated with it. Okay, so protect yourselves. Okay, any questions or concerns?
Oh, listen.
No? Okay, so that's 6 and 7. Next week we'll cover chapter 12. So it's the buying process is the big thing about chapter 12. So, make sure you understand that and we'll go from there. Okay, so I trust that you all have a productive week.
Yes, ma'am. Plan to.
Okay. All right. So have a good evening.
Good night.
Good
Okay.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night, all.
Good night, Andre.